Welcome back to Project 613. Today we are going to learn 8 mitzvot, all about the special offerings that were brought in the Holy Temple on the Jewish festivals on the Yomim Tovim. You see, we learned previously that every day of the year there was a set offering brought daily in the temple, the Korban Tamid, the daily offering. But on special occasions there were additional extra offerings known as the Musaf, which literally means additional. So for example, we learned that Shabbat had a Musaf offering, an additional offering, and Rosh Chodesh had its additional offering. Today we will learn about the additional offering of all of the Jewish festivals. So the first mitzvah that we have today is that the Torah tells us we are commanded to bring a special additional offering on each of the 7 days of the holiday of Pesach. You see, in Israel there are only 7 days of Pesach, and on each of the 7 days of Pesach, an additional offering, in addition to the regular daily offerings, was brought in the temple in honor of the Yontif. The second mitzvah we have today is about the Omer Offering. This is the first harvest offering, where the Torah tells us that on the second day of the holiday of Pesach, which is the 16th of the month of Nisan, we should bring a barley offering to the temple from the new harvest, together with an animal sacrifice as well. But when it comes to this offering, interestingly, the Torah is vague with the date. The Torah tells us this should be brought on the day following the Shabbat. Now, our sages had a tradition where they knew that the meaning of Shabbat in this context actually means the festival, and therefore the Torah is telling us that on the day following the first day of the festival of Pesach, they should bring this offering. However, because there were a group of Jews at the time who did not agree with the sages' interpretation, so in order to demonstrate the truth of the sages' tradition, this sacrifice, this offering, was brought with a great ceremony and with much celebration and noise, in order that everyone should see and everyone should hear that this is in fact the correct date of when the Omer offering should be brought, not on the Sunday, not as the literal interpretation of the verse would seem to indicate, that it should be brought on the day following Shabbat, so which would be on the first Sunday following Pesach, but rather on the day following the Yontif of Pesach, of the day following the first day of Pesach, which would be the second day of Pesach, the 16th of Nisan. The third mitzvah that we learn today is to bring a special Musaf offering on Shavuot, which is brought 50 days after the Omer offering. As the Torah says, you shall count 50 days from when the Omer offering is brought, and that is when we have the holiday of Shavuot, and an additional offering is brought then. In addition, on Shavuot, there is another mitzvah to bring a offering made out of 2 loaves of bread. This is called the Shtei HaLechem. And this was unique because usually the meal offerings in the Holy Temple, we learned previously, all had to be made of matzah. They could not be chametz. Even all around the year in the temple, the meal offerings could not be leavened. But on Shavuot, it is a special mitzvah to bring 2 loaves of bread, known as the Shtei HaLechem. The fifth mitzvah that we have today is to bring a special Musaf offering on Rosh Hashanah, as the Torah clearly tells us, the first day of the 7th month, which is the month of Tishrei. And then the next mitzvah that we have is to bring the special offering of Yom Kippur, as the Torah says, on the 10th day of the 7th month. The 7th mitzvah is to bring the special offerings each day of Sukkot. And each day there was a specific number and a different amount of offerings that were brought in the temple. The Torah lists them all for each day of Sukkot, and that is its own mitzvah that we're learning today. And finally, the last mitzvah that we have is that on the day of Shmini Atzeret, which is considered as a celebration on its own, it's a festival on its own, independent from Sukkot, it should have its own unique offering. And indeed, when you compare the way the Torah describes the offerings of Sukkot to the offering of Shmini Atzeret, you see a big difference, that whereas every day of Sukkot, if we would count up the total amount of bulls that were brought, we would reach the number 70. But on Shmini Atzeret, there was only 1 bull that was brought. And the reason for this is because the 70 bulls of Sukkot represent the 70 nations of the world, which are all represented in the temple on the holiday of Sukkot. But then on Shmini Atzeret, Hashem says, this day represents only the Jewish people, and that's why there is only 1 bull brought on Shmini Atzeret. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.